Welcome back. We are live from the Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology in Kakamega County tonight to have a conversation around the subject of climate. Of course, the conferences have been happening, and this year it will be held in Brazil. It's been Africa, it's been to Europe, and also in the Americas. But the question is the question around loss, damage, and the adaptation of finance at a level in the context now debating here at the devolved units. And this evening in my company is the host governor, Fernandez Barasa, Kakamega County. Many thanks for your time. Much appreciated for availing yourself for this discussion. His counterpart from Vihiga County also joins us. Wilbur Oticholo has been an advocate for climate justice, passionate about it and so enthusiastic. Also in our company is the Professor Solomon Shibairo, the Vice Chancellor of this institution, hosting this debate here. Also in their company is Dr. Caroline Mulinya, who is a senior lecturer at Kaimu's Friends University, passionate about climate matters, and Alan Ligare is the Chief Executive Officer of Mzuri Organics, matters regarding science and also the matter of climate change. Many thanks, ladies and gentlemen, and also to our live audience here at the auditorium hall in this institution, and we welcome your contributions. First, coming to you, Governor Fernandez Barasa, if you are to give us a scope of what the challenges are when talking about climate and using a simplified language that the Mwananchi can understand beyond the jargon in climate conferences, what are the hindrances, for instance, in attaining some of the objectives that are normally set at the county level?
First and foremost, I want to confirm that Kakamega County, we have a very robust climate smart action plan, which is meant to augment some of the strategies that we are using at the grassroots level. And for starters, we, of course, prone to the fact that Kakamega County, we have sometimes prolonged droughts. We also have flooding that happens around here. We have lightning arresters, of course, lightning which is mitigated by lightning arresters. And for us now to mitigate against those, we have come up with a very clear action plan. Number one is to encourage our farmers to have some smart, agricultural smart climate value chains which are crop resistant. For example, planting of millets, arrowroots, that is now part of the mitigation. In terms of the lightning challenges, which has struck most of the schools, using the funds that we have put in the budget, we have also done some specific intervention by having lightning arresters in most of the schools, especially in Malava. But looking at the bigger picture, which is part of the conference objective, is to see how the Lake Region Economic Bloc counties, which are 14 of them, will have a coordinated approach to mitigate against the negative impact of climate action, because we are aware that in the region we have 3 water towers. We have Cherengani Water Tower, we have Mount Elgon and Mau Towers. So it becomes very important for us as a region, not just to look at the climate action mitigation plans as a count, but as a region, because it affects the entire lake region. And one of the objectives for the LREP is to see how we come up with optimal solutions for sustainability. And that is why when you look at the aspect of climate action, we don't just restrict to Kakamega County alone. And that is why we are having this conference, which will begin on the 14th of October to 16th of October. And of course, naturally, Masinde Muliro becomes our host, and the president will be the chief guest on the 15th of October.
We'll talk more about the Lake Region Economic Bloc Regional Climate Change Summit and Agriculture Expo this year, 2025. Governor Oticholo, coming to you. It's 4 years since the devolution conference in Makueni County. which was themed multi-level governance for climate action. At the time, the COP conference was happening in Glasgow in the UK. Ideally, if you were to give an audit of the past 4 years, what are the accomplishments that counties have achieved from where you sit in regards to the resolutions that were reached in Wote, Makueni County?
Thank you for that very important question and for the opportunity. And I want to take this opportunity to thank my colleague, Barasa, for hosting us here in Kakamega. I would like to say that as the chair of the Committee on Environment and Climate Change at the Council of Governors, since the last time we had a meeting at Makueni, we have made a lot of development in the area of climate change. First and foremost, we, the 47 counties, we have now managed to enact climate change policies and laws that govern on how we manage climate change. We have equally put in regulations on how to do that. The most difficult area in climate change is financing. We realized as counties that depending on development partners and donors is an uphill task. Even at the global level, there have been so many promises about financing climate change at the local level, particularly on adaptation, but that has not been forthcoming. So as a counties, we made a resolution that within our budgeting process, we have to allocate a certain percentage of our budget to climate change initiatives. And we agreed that depending on the finances and the budgets of various counties, the percentage would vary between 2 and 6%. Okay. And as a result of that, all the counties have been able to budget annually, and we have made a lot of strides. I would like to say that the biggest or the most difficult issue in climate change matters is the creating awareness at the community level. Okay. And with our funding, we have been able to set up our climate change planning committees at the world level, which have been capacity built, and now we have those committees that now make decisions at that level. Mm-hmm. We were also lucky through the Council of Governors and the Treasury, we were able to negotiate a funding called Financing Locally Led Climate Action, normally called FLOCA. Okay. And we negotiated this funding through the World Bank, Netherlands government, Denmark, and Germany. And we have been able to access the funding is about $350 billion. So we have been able to access to this money for the last 4 years, and a lot of advances have been made.
Yeah. And you talked about the donors and the other parties who are very crucial in this process. So we talk about then the much-needed voice to push for the richer countries, the polluting countries, to pay for the loss and the damage and the adaptation of finance needed. Prof, coming to you, how then from academia and institutions like this that you had here, can they contribute to climate-smart agriculture, for instance? And is one such venture looking at the young voices, young Kenyans who are innovative, and give them the opportunity to come up with these smart technologies to counter the consequences of climate change?
Thank you, Ayub, and welcome to Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology. We call it the University of Choice. Currently, we have a student population of 26,000. In terms of population, we could be maybe the 5th or the 6th largest university in the country. We have contributed a lot. One, in terms of our curricula, we have our whole school dedicated to matters related to climate in the name of disaster management and humanitarian assistance. And it was one of the universities that has produced, especially PhDs in this line, in the country. And we are known for that. We have had a capacity being employed as far as many areas in the country, including the armed forces, to manage issues of disaster management that are caused because of changes in climate change. Ayubu, it's good to appreciate some of the damages that this has happened. For example, 2 decades ago, we are located near a forest called Kakamega Forest, which is one of the remnants of the equatorial forest, of the tropical forest. 2 decades ago, it was 1,000 kilometers in area, and now it's merely 238 within 20 years. We used to have what we call Kakamega crying storm. Nowadays, it's not crying as much as it used to. Effects of climate change. We used to have 400 species of flora and 200 of fauna. Good example is 27 species of deadly snakes. Those are really diminished in numbers because human beings have destroyed the caves and the environment where they used to be. So for us, that is not good enough for us. It's annoying. So that's why we decided to have this school, so that we can help. And we already have programs on the ground that are doing this. For example, we have a big program with the military, as well as some sugar companies here like West Kenya, where we are using the material to produce biofuel. And we are going to scale it much higher. Then number 2, we are using green energy. For example, if you went to our main office there and the library, they depend on solar energy 24 hours. We are expanding that project everywhere. So we are doing something to mitigate this. Then we have a lot of research going on in terms of light arresting. One of the known scientists in light arresting used to be here until he retired recently. Don't know whether you remember the name, Professor Jalango. He used to be here. And we have other officers and members of staff doing this. And with regard to students, we are training our younger ones to be involved. For example, next coming Saturday, I'm giving a bus load of about 100 students who are going to plant trees in his county, in Vihiga. And when His Excellency comes here, we intend to plant the whole year not less than 28,000 trees. Thank you.
So, Dr. Caroline, Prof mentions the speed at which the world is warming generally. Of course, this region included and our country included in the continent. But are the interventions that are tailored also matching the speed of the actions around us?
Thank you, Ayub. I think the interventions are not really matching the speed at which climate is changing, and this is occasioned by the activities that human beings are really greatly involved in. Most importantly, burning of fossil fuels. This is the greatest contributor to climate change. And I think with the many activities that people are involved in, and use of fossil fuel for cooking, and so on and so forth. So in this case, I don't think we are matching the speed at which climate is changing. And in that case, we will have to work extremely hard so that we can try, we might not reverse, but at least mitigate against climate change, without which it's going to be a real serious scenario, because the amounts of carbon dioxide that are emitted in the atmosphere each and every day are really high. And I want to believe, like this country of ours, I don't think we are really putting in the real measures that we desire. Other countries elsewhere are really trying. There are certain countries whereby you go and even the vehicles, there's a time span in which vehicles can be used. But I think in our country, we just talk about it on paper, but we don't actually put it in practice. And the vehicles probably we are using are too old, and the emissions are very high. And even some countries in this world, they would go one day and they say it's a holiday and no use of motor vehicles. So you can imagine if that is happening in such countries. But our country, I don't think we are really putting in measures that can be able to mitigate against climate change. And if we don't watch out, it's really going to affect us in a very bad way. And all of us seated here, I think we have a responsibility and a role to play so that we can mitigate against climate change, because it affects all the sectors of all the sectors, agriculture, water, health, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's our duty and it's our responsibility that we can be able to work towards mitigating against climate change. Yeah. If each of us seated here today played their role, then I think we'd be good to go.
Yeah. And the question of extreme conditions on both ends, I'll come to you, Governor Otichilo, on the point she lays out regarding then how these calls ought to be amplified for the big polluters, the countries that have been reluctant to phasing out coal, then can pay up for the damages that they have done to the atmosphere. But Alan, give us a perspective of how research is key in this entire goal, and especially for a continent that is bearing the consequence of an action that it hadn't committed. I mean, Africa is not one of the biggest polluters. Of course, they are known, those who do that. But ideally, how much can African research, can Kenyan research, can also, at the countries where we are, be able to contribute to the mitigation process of the consequences that are glaringly upon us?
Thank you very much, first, for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Governor Baraza, for hosting us. Asante sana viongozi, very able. Yeah, now, there are very many youths out here who have very beautiful solutions in form of digital solutions, in form of very practical science-based solutions. But there is a big challenge that is particularly pegged on the supporting infrastructure that would help them move their innovations forward in terms of institutions that are dealing in research particularly. However, I want to laud some institutions that, for example, are very committed to, let me say, transferring their technological innovations. For example, a very close institution that I work with in my quest to deal with climate aspects in the aspect of soil health, particularly the microbiome sector. The ICIPE as an institution, in International Center for Insect Physiology and Entomology. They develop solutions, and they take these solutions outside to the community and ensure that people are able to adapt or utilize the same solutions that they've developed and utilize them to create businesses. We have government institutions like KIRDI, for example, a research institution that is also promoting particularly innovation in all sectors in general, but also very keen nowadays on the climate sector. For example, they've been helping us with developing a product that would help with soil health. They are helping others, for example, with very simple solutions, like, for example, we have people who are doing food preservation in ways that are not known here, have not been known here, for example.
You can put the mic close to your mouth here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We have young people out here who have been doing research on how to dry very basic things like sukuma wiki and packaging it because of the challenge of food security that has been occasioned by climate change. Yeah, institutions like KIRDI are enabling them to actualize this dream, to turn this into sustainable businesses. Yeah, so these are just good examples of how research institutions can actually help with bring out solutions that are practical and sustainable, driven particularly by the youth, who actually should be the ones driving the community right now because they are the majority. Yeah? And we want that, if it is possible, the government to really consider such research institutions to enable this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dr. Caroline, I'll come to you on that smallholder farming question, but Governor Barasa and Governor Otichilo, coming to you before we open up the floor for questions from members of the audience. How key is it then to offer that much-needed critical balance between development needs, of course, you budget for, from what comes from the exchequer, and environmental conservation, and the idea that any action you take is mitigative because scarce resource means possibilities of conflicts, and which then makes up communities to fight. So how do you strike that balance given the resource constraints that the National Treasury always complains about? Governor Barasa.
Maybe I will start. Because of the importance of conservation and mitigation, that is why we have designated a budget for climate change mitigation strategies by requesting counties to budget at least 2%. From the Kakamega County perspective, we have budgeted 3% of the development budget, around 300 million Kenya shillings. This is counterpart funding to support what we are getting from development partners. And this is critical because when you look at the devastating effects of climate action, definitely it makes a very good business case to budget for the money. Because food security is extremely important. This region, for example, is agricultural-based region, and if you don't invest in strategies to mitigate against any threat to food security, then you will not achieve your agenda. And that is why we are very conscious on at least having some mitigation strategies. I know the financing may not be enough, but that conscious approach of designating a particular percentage is important. And I also want to agree with Governor Otichilo that the sensitization must start from the grassroots in terms of making sure that every ward has climate planning committees who will come up with specific measures for mitigation, adaptation, and community resilience. So because of the impacts, you cannot just sit pretty. Otherwise, all the agenda items you have in the development, especially for food security, environment, you may not achieve them. And that is why that is an aspect that cannot be ignored. And we are very happy that the World Bank and other social actors are very keen to support investing in climate change mitigation strategies, which becomes also one of the key areas of focus for the upcoming conference on the 14th.
Okay. Yeah. God willing. Yes, Governor Otichilo.
Yes, it's a very tricky situation. It's a balancing situation. Yeah. But as Fernandez has said, we have realized that climate change is affecting all sectors of our economy. And unless we take measures, then we cannot achieve in any of the sectors. So one of the strategies we have agreed as a Council of Governors to mainstream climate change in all sectors of our economy. In all our departments, we have made a policies decision that we mainstream. And some of the programs that we are implementing in any of the departments, be it agriculture, environment, road and infrastructure, we ensure that climate change component is part and parcel of that exercise to ensure that we mitigate and take adaptive measures to ensure that climate change matter is addressed. Equally, we as Council of Governors, we are involved again within the national government and various ministries to write project proposals that are sector-based. For example, currently we have a program called NAF-CDP for agriculture for all the 47 counties, where a big component of that funding is on how to promote smart agriculture in the counties. So that's what we are doing, but it is indeed not easy to have enough budget for the climate change because of its impact across the board.
Okay. So we'll talk about the partners as well and the much-needed voice that is to be conveyed. Prof, after the brief questions, the question around climate-smart agriculture, you will respond to that, and Dr. Caroline, Alan has mentioned the importance of smallholder farmers and their contribution, and especially involving women who also make up the lion's share of smallholder farmers in our country. So by show of hand, yes, pointed. 2 and 3 at the back. Okay, I'll take more after some time. Yes, please, the lady there. You have the microphone? Yes, my colleague will come and hand it over to you. So you start by your name.
I'm called Lucy Wanjiru Mbugwa. I'm the Vice President, Kaimosi Friends University, and I'm so happy to see my lecturer and my governor on the podium. My question goes to both of the governors. You have talked about the financing, you are the council. Now I want to know what physical incentives could the county government introduce to encourage private sectors in green technology? Thank you.
Okay, incentives, they have noted. Next question. What physical incentives have the county government introduced to support, right? Okay. Yes, the gentleman in the suit, and then to you, right?
Good evening, everyone. My question goes to our able leaders, Bana FCPF Barasa and our governor from Vihiga. You have said that, Bana Barasa have said that he has budgeted from the county the 3% to create awareness maybe to the locals and to plan the budget from the ward level. But we as people from the areas, we aren't seeing the process of the efforts being made by the county governments to ensure that the awareness is there to the members and to the locals and women within the wards. Kindly tell us how, despite complaining about the finances, what about this 3% that you have budgeted? How is it being managed?
Okay, so the outcomes and whether there is enough awareness around the same.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, the gentleman. So I'm sure we've started on a good trajectory. So we keep it short so we can pick many, okay? Yes, please. The microphone over here.
Thank you very much for the chance. My name is George Manyali, Senior Lecturer in Kaimosi Friends University. My question goes to the Vice Chancellor. That what percentage of your budget goes to climate action? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the gentleman, so we have taken 3, we'll take the last one, 4. Yes, in the half jacket. Yes, please, yeah. Yes. I'll come to the rest of you. Yes, please, yeah. The microphone is here. It's coming.
Thank you for the chance. I'm Salvino Tavisi from Kaimosi Friends University. My question goes direct to the Governor of Vihiga County. Your Excellency Governor, what strategic plan does the county government have to support Kaimosi Friends University in becoming a center of excellence, especially in areas like research, innovation, and environmental sustainability that align with the county development goals?
Thank you. So we'll respond to that. I'll start with Prof. There was a question for you from a lecturer. So on the question of what percentage goes to climate action at this institution.
Okay, thank you very much. Just like the governors illustrated and showed that most of their programs are actually geared, or there's a climate change in it. The similar thing happens to us here. If you check most of their programs, for example, in agriculture, in the disaster management school, in the School of Natural Sciences, all of them have something mainstreaming climate change. And that I would put approximately 30%. We also have 50 million allocated yearly for research. Just issues to do with the research. And half of the research is either in agriculture or disaster management. So you have put quite a lot of money there, but this is not enough for our lecturers or researchers. We want help for that.
Okay. Yes, Governor Otichilo, first coming to you. One specific question for you as to how you would support Kaimo's Friends University on research, innovation, and other environmental activities. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Yes, Kaimo's Friends University and the county government of Vihiga, we have come into partnership through an MOU, and we have agreed to set up a center of excellency in climate action because we strongly believe that we need a lot of research and capacity building. And we felt that partnering with our university would be the best option. And therefore, we have established that center, and Caroline here is the leader or the manager, the coordinator of the program. And what we have agreed is that we will be able to mobilize resources through proposal writing, which we have already started. In fact, we have engaged ourselves with one of the universities in India, who are we are already entering into an MOU with them. But we have also agreed that the university would be able to budget certain amount of money to run the center, and equally the county government will be able to budget through our own budgeting process resources to bring particularly building capacity for our people. So any of the training programs we will have, either for the community or for our technical people, we want that center to be the nucleus or the center of training.
Okay, and the other question for both of you, governors, before we go to Dr. Caroline and Alan, fiscal incentives regarding and whether there is enough awareness around the allocation that, for instance, Governor Barasa spent 3%, and the outcomes, whether they are practical and impactful.
Well, in terms of the fiscal incentives, we have to look at it both from the national level and the county level, because most of the financing that we are getting from the development partners, it is external. So one of the incentives you can give at the national level is to have, let's say, tax incentives to make sure that the cost of doing business is reduced, to make it easy in terms of the regulatory framework. Review of the procurement processes sometimes becomes very difficult or cumbersome to procure an activity that is a mitigating activity for environment. So it can become a fiscal incentive by making sure that the procurement and the legal framework is simplified. And also, we need to improve, to a large extent, our road infrastructure. And that is why we're investing a lot in the infrastructure, because that will also give the private investors an opportunity to invest more. Now, the 3% that I talked about, there are various programs that we are doing in Kakamega. One of them is we have a water shortage in town, almost 20 cubic meters of water is actually a shortfall, and we have invested a lot in the renovation of Savannah water project around Lurambi here. We have put in 50 million Kenya shillings. We have done a renovation of dams just to make sure that we have sustainable food supply. So there are various dams that we have started here, renovated in Lugari, in Likuyani, etc. We have also done a lot in terms of making sure that we solarize our water schemes, because solarization is a key component basically to address the issue of biomass fuels. And also awareness, those local level planning committees there are a lot of capacity building programs which are undertaken because we want the local communities to have local solutions for purposes of mitigation, adaptation, and sustainability. Okay. So there are quite a number of programs that we've done, including rehabilitating various water schemes which had actually been abandoned. So investment in the infrastructure, water, okay, irrigation. Mm-hmm. We have also done a lot of water springs. Yeah. So all this you'll find we have actually taken care of in the counterpart funding of 3%. Okay. Yeah. And
Dr. Caroline, yes, please.
Briefly add on what he has said. Apart from what he has said, we have undertaken climate change risk assessment in all the wards. So the programs, the investment programs, are based on those reports to know exactly each of the wards, what are the climate risk areas, and then how do we put in mitigation and adaptation measures. Mm-hmm. And all the sectors he has talked about is what has been given priority. And this is done by the communities themselves. The committees make the proposals and the county governments or provide funding, which then ensures that the projects are done and the communities carry out the monitoring and evaluation, and eventually we hand over the projects to the communities.
And Dr. Caroline, other than the partnership, especially in the context of the investments made in, for instance, the institution where you lecture, how has that proved to be a solid foundation based on the effects of climate that we have talked about at this level? For instance, Governor Barasa has pointed out the lessening of the water bases in Kakamega County and the need for, which speaks basically to population density and people's activities. But how is the partnership like your institution and the county government of Vihiga proving to be a foundational solid that comes up with the required answers and measures to address these problems?
Thank you, Ayub. The Center of Excellence in Climate Action and Research at Kaimosi Friends University, which is in partnership with the county government of Vihiga and the institution where I lecture, I have to say that it's really a game changer on issues climate change in the manner that this center has mainly 4 goals. The first goal is research. Because the university is a place where we have all the experts. Mm-hmm. And like my institution has 5 schools, economics, computing, health sciences, education, and sciences. So you can imagine how many experts are in this institution. So anything to do with research, you can be sure we can be able to handle all aspects regarding research, be it in water, energy, health, and so on and so forth. Number 2, this center is for capacity building, and as our governor has put it clearly, we thought wise that if we have the center to bring people on board and we can train them on few issues like climate smart agriculture, simple technologies, on energy, then that is very good for us. And thirdly, this is a center where we want to package data information. As you realize, Ayub, information on climate is quite rare and sometimes not given on time. And so what we are doing at Kaimosi Friends University in collaboration with the county is to give real-time data so that we can be able to tell farmers, you saw what happened in Kericho. There was a lot of hailstorms. So if we can be able to tell that on time, then we can be doing very well. And that is one of the other objectives of this particular center. Okay. So I think we are really doing well as a center. And I really want to thank Governor Otichilo for really being in the forefront, enabling Kaimosi Friends University to be the leading institution in this region.
Yeah. Just to add on that, we would want to request the council to ensure that at least climate change is mainstreamed in all the courses in the University of Kaimosi, so that every student has a chance to do at least a unit on climate change, because we believe that climate change should be mainstreamed across board to everybody.
Thank you. Alan, I'll come to you because there's an interesting thing that happened after the break, and I'll start with you. When the King Charles came here, he was fancied by organic farming, and it's something that he has written about constantly since the 1970s when he was still the prince. So we'll talk about the threat of urbanization and the spaces that are growing small. In that context, then how we sustain smallholder farming and agriculture, the need to forestall the hailstorms that Dr. Caroline talked about in, for example, Kericho County, and also the water shortage in parts of Kakamega County, the question of droughts in northeastern part of the country, and holistically address this matter. Of course, not forgetting the global call needed for the big polluters to pay for the consequences of their actions. This is a special edition of The Bench coming to you from Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology in Kakamega County. And we are back with the climate conversation after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.